Good morning. We do the Gatha on opening the sutra.
Gatha on opening the sutra. The Dharma incomparably profound and infinitely subtle is rarely even in millions of ages. Now we see it, hear it, receive
and maintain it.
May we
Completely realize
the
the ultimate God to its true meaning. Not sure what I'm going to say today. I have some notes, some thoughts, and basically it pertains to what's occurring now socially in the United States. And how do we face that? What do we do as everyday citizens, and what do we do as Zen folks? And I listened to a Dharma talk by Joan Halifax, Roshi Joan, out in New Mexico. And she had a quote from Lou Richmond, who is a Zen teacher in the San Francisco Zen Center. And as a place to start, I'd like to read that quote. Everything is connected. Nothing lasts, and you are not alone. Everything is connected. Nothing lasts, and you are not alone. So I'd like to keep that in mind every day. When the current social circumstances unfold. Now, one of the things that I think is most profound and is really the foundation, if you set aside the personalities, is actually the foundation is, and it's the consequences of that, that there is seemingly never-ending greed, anger, ignorance, narcissism, hatred, revenge. That's a tremendous amount of negativity to live with on a daily basis. And it's all over the place. It's not like if you go to a particular building, that's where you'll find it. It permeates our whole condition, our whole society. And the other thing is that the energy behind it is incredible. Millions and millions of people support the vehicle that creates all of this terrible, terrible energy, these terrible emotions. Now, I've heard, people talk about it being toxic or poisonous. And I think it's a good metaphor because if we're exposed to it long enough, it starts to seep into our bodies and our minds. And sometimes it happens even without our knowing it. You wake up one day and, I'll think, holy crap, was I thinking that? Or did I say this? So I've noticed I'm on a couple of, forget the word for it, but several friends we exchange emails. And emails were basically friendly, getting caught up with what's going on, maybe talking a little bit about poetry, about running, all sorts of different things, but all very lighthearted. And the last time we emailed, the entire email exchange was about the election and the consequences. And it was filled with a lot of emotion, anger being the predominant one. And there are 7 people that are on this link where we talk to each other. And one of them is a Republican. And the person who is the center point for this group of emailers was left off the email list. Now, in a certain way, that says an awful lot. This is somebody who we have been friendly with since college, and that's a long time ago for me. So that having that happen to me, that's poisonous. It seeps in and you don't even realize it until you start to get symptoms. The other thing that I've noticed, I have, since the election, Faye and I decided that we really were not going to listen to TV or any news information about the results of the election until after the inauguration. It was sort of like we needed to take a vacation or a rest before we had to deal with what we knew that we were going to have to deal with. But recently, on YouTube, actually, I started taking peeks at the different news stations. And one of the things was, whether it was a comedian or a news organization, the hostility was unbelievable. They were violently critical. I mean, it was really powerful. And the response to all this by these various ways of communicating to the society were humiliation, degradation, sarcasm, and so forth. And if you think about it, what does this do? It creates separation between us. Because of its intensity, a lot of us get lost off the email list, or a lot of us push away people on the email list. And this is all reinforced. It's the actual circumstances, the actual news, and then it's also the commentary that takes place. Added on to that, all of the fears and the worries and the anger that those of us who are concerned about this in a particular way have. So there's a lot of negativity seeping in, and it's creating a lot of emotion. Now, I know for me, well, certainly anger, but I would say probably one of the strongest emotions is fear, and fear in a particular way. Firstly, I have 4 young grandchildren from age 4 to newborn. And, it's really scary to think what might become to our country and our society that these grandchildren are going to inherit. And also my son and my daughter-in-law. So there's fear, but there's also an equal fear for all the suffering that may occur by all the changes that are going to be imposed on our country. And I think the first example of this is the horrible attitude, the horrible thinking about detaining and evicting immigrants. I mean, well, I don't know if you saw the speech by I guess she was a bishop of Washington, D.C., where she directly confronted the president and mentioned the fact she asked for mercy, she asked for compassion. And whether or not you think she should have done that, the message to me, I think, is very important. Mercy and compassion. If you're going to uproot all these people, all these children, and kick them out of our country, please, please do it with mercy, do it with compassion. But unfortunately, part of the poison is that's not going to happen. And that's going to seep in too. And that's going to create, in my case, fear and anger, but it'll create a variety of emotions for a variety of different people. But the one thing that it does is it separates us. We're set up of this and that, of you and me. And that separation becomes like the Grand Canyon after a while. And it is so harmful, so destructive. So my main reason for talking about this is I wanted to start a discussion amongst us, just as an opportunity, nobody has to say anything, but just as an opportunity where we would be in a safe place and we would be able to talk about our own thoughts and feelings, and how we might take this situation up, how we might learn to live in these circumstances. And one of the things as I was thinking about this, the feeling of gratitude came up. Now, this is very random. It's not well thought out in a sense, but I'll read the things that I felt gratitude for, at least as I thought about it quickly. And given what we're moving into, I am so grateful for the the spiritual ancestors that we have that have passed down this religion that we practice and the tenets of this religion and the precepts of the religion, all these things that are here today that are there to guide us. And we can use those creatively, depending upon our own temperament. And in that vein, I also give thanks not only for the teachers from ancient times, but also, like I said, for the messages that they had, for the teachings that they had. And at the same time as this gratitude was sort of flowing through me, I was giving thanks for all the wonderful gifts that Zen practice has given me, all the positive effects that it has had in my life, all the love and compassion that it has allowed to open in me, which may have never been there or never been expressed if I hadn't been part of this practice. And I guess right now, the last thing would be, despite all I'm saying, I am I have such gratitude for this particular moment and this particular breath. So I don't feel discouraged, but I do feel worried. And I do think that part of going through this is there's a lot of us that are going to be going through this together. And I think it's important that somehow, even though we'll have various positions on things and various ways of expressing ourselves, that we don't lose sight of the fact that we're not alone, that we are together. So everybody knows from my preaching over the years about the 3 tenets of the Zen peacemakers, which I'm a member of. And these tenets that use me in all aspects of life. If I have a confrontation with somebody in the marketplace, my guide appears so that I don't contribute to making a mess of things. In family, it's never perfect in family, and things always come up, and it's just a part of life. But these tenets are a wonderful guide for me to know how to move in a particular situation, how not to add on to the problem. So just quickly, you know that the first one is not knowing, and that's entering into a situation with an open mind and without prejudiced opinions, right or wrong, all the answers. And this happens by the practice of Zazen. As we still our mind, as we exist in a place of not knowing, that experience of being wide open to hear not to impose, but to hear. And by taking it in, we can see it more clearly because it's not disturbed by all our opinions and all the rest of that. And then the second thing, which is these are all related to each other, but the second thing is the bearing witness. And that's being present with a still mind that, as I just said, doesn't know. And it's a still mind, right? If we have a still mind, we can see clearly the ingredients of a particular situation. And with that clarity, we will know how to move with those ingredients, how to use those ingredients in the most positive, helpful, and compassionate way. So we empty ourselves, we use that emptiness, that open-mindedness to sit and be with the situation. Now I say sit and be with it. It doesn't always happen that way. Sometimes just out of the blue, you're in the middle of it. But still, if you practice this practice, you'll be less reactive and you'll be able to be more present and more present to be aware of what's going on, to not react, but to have a response. And then the third one is compassion. And compassion is bearing witness to somebody's suffering and doing whatever we can, limited or greater, to help relieve that person's suffering. So we do what actions that we can. And it's important to bear witness because we don't want to act and add to the situation. Now, these are things that I don't know, just as I was doing this is the last part, I just wrote off these different lines about things. They're not really necessarily a coherent part of anything, but I thought I would share them. And there's an old saying, don't speak unless it will improve upon silence. And so I think that don't speak if you don't think it'll improve the circumstances. I think especially filled with all this energy now, this negative energy, there's a real push to want to say something, to want to react, to want to express emotion. And the problem is we have to be aware of the context that we do that. In a place like this, the Zendo, where we've been friends for years, where we're all receptive to each other, it's much easier to speak. It's much easier to take what you said back. It's much easier to express emotions if you want to do that, because it's that kind of container. So if we speak, we want to be grounded in wisdom and compassion. And wisdom comes from not knowing. Not knowing is wisdom. And out of that comes compassion. And in doing so, if we can do that, if we can remain present like that, with a beginner's mind, with an empty mind, and act from that place in compassion, then we are not going to create an us versus them situation. Right? Even if somebody is trying to provoke us, even if somebody is trying to propagandize us with information that's not true, we don't have to react. We can be present, we can listen. Sometimes compassion is walking away. Right? It doesn't have to be anything dramatic. Another thing that I've learned over the years, and when you're having any kind of conversation or involvement where there's disagreement, is to try not to make yourself the issue, to keep the issue the issue. Don't behave in a way where the issue sort of fades away and now you're the problem or I'm the problem. And the last thing is, well, I guess two last things. One is we should take care of each other. Sometimes one of us will be vulnerable. It's nice to have somebody else be there and be compassionate when we're vulnerable, when we're scared, when we're hurting. So I think that one of the things that's incredibly important is that we look to take care of each other. And the last thing is we should never lose our sense of humor. I find that humor is invaluable to going through these kinds of experiences. So I look forward to the practice circle, and I look forward, if there is anybody who wants to talk about this, I look forward to hearing about it. And one of the nice things about is no crosstalk is it's a forum for you to say what you want without having to be held accountable for it, right? It's just a safe place to say things and see how it sounds to you after they've been said. So I'll see you in the fourth period, and thanks for listening.